Welcome everybody to another installment of our Pivot Panels, sponsored by the SBDC for Chaffee, Lake, and Park counties. I'm Leanne Presley. I'm your host for these sessions, and I'm excited to share the stories of other business owners with you so that you might be able to glean some ideas and some inspiration and some motivation to consider a pivot with your business. Right now, we're in kind of phase 2, entering phase 3 in early May of 2020, dealing with the COVID epidemic. And I'm excited today to share with you the story of my guest, Megan Kingman. She is the owner of CKS Main Street in Buena Vista, Colorado. Welcome to our Pivot panel, Megan Kingman.
Hello.
So Megan, part of the purpose of this pivot panel is to share with other business owners how you pivoted. And just for the benefit of our listeners, you do have a retail shop in downtown Buena Vista. CKS stands for Colorado Kayak Supply for folks that might not know, and you specialize in river gear and so on. So let's just start by having you tell our listeners or all our viewers, as it were, about what kind of happened during the first part of COVID for you, and what have you been doing in terms of pivoting the business now?
So first of all, I was in Europe when when we heard about it. Made an emergency flight home the day President Trump announced that the travel ban to Europe, and came home to Buena Vista, where we promptly realized kind of the magnitude of the situation and what had kind of unfolded in the 10 days that we had been gone, because everything happened so quickly. You know, we kind of at first just, sat with it for a little bit and thought, wow, things are really taking off. But it ramped up so quickly that it really required a lot of quick action and a lot of, forethought on like how this is going to work and how can we make it work. And for us, so when our store was shut down, we were not considered an essential service. And so we had to close our shop. And my husband and I, as the owners of this business, something that we found really important was to be able to keep our staff on and be able to keep them employed. As someone who lives in a small town and is, involved in the community and connected, I saw the longer term implications of a business halt, but then B, a laying off of everybody and then cutting out our economy at its legs, essentially, and the recovery and how that would kind of, be more detrimental in the long run. So for us, we thought what's really big for us and a really big priority is to keep our employees on, keep them paid. So I immediately got on the phone with our bank who we have loans with and asked for deferrals. The very first day, I emailed all of our vendors who we sell their products here in the store. So I emailed all of our vendors and asked for extended dating on any invoices, because at the time I didn't know what was happening, but I said any invoices between that time and June 1st, just assuming that if we're closed for a set amount of time, the amount of recovery that it might take for us to get back to a point where we'd be able to pay again. Kept a really, really close eye on the news and what was unfolding. I also reached out to the SBA office as soon as I heard about disaster relief loans and following that, the PPP loan. And so I think it was really beneficial for us that we immediately took action to make these things happen and didn't just pigeonhole ourselves into one opportunity and say, oh, we're going to get a disaster relief loan and that's going to be the thing. And I still am, even at this point in time, looking into different opportunities and different options, because nothing's guaranteed right now and we don't know what's going to happen. So, I'm looking up all sorts of different loan programs outside of the SBA, different, group funding type scenarios, just constantly doing research and trying to figure out what's new. And I think it's also been really helpful to keep a close eye on updates and I've, since this has happened, have signed up for newsletters with the SBA and the Colorado Chamber of Commerce and a number of other things to try to keep in the loop on pretty much anything I could to have information fed to us. So.
And so when the state shut down businesses, you were you able to keep on employees with any other sort of model for selling your products?
Yes. So essentially, and we're fortunate in that for us, this happened at a point in time where we were just coming out of our off season and we really only have 2.5 employees at that point in time. So it was easier for us to be able to say, we're keeping our people on and that's the decision that we're making and they're valuable to us and we need them. And so for us, we were able to make that decision. And we sat down, first thing we did was we sat down with our staff at a distance outside and said, this is what's happening. We all are watching the news. We're all seeing what's going on. You guys are our priority right now. And we're trying to do everything we can, deferring all of our other stuff to really be able to prioritize making payroll happen right now. And like I said, that was a decision that we made. My husband and I made just on a personal basis, but also long-term with our staff and keeping them on and our business as a functioning unit. So
what kind of a model did you move to after the shutdown?
Oh, yeah.
Curbside or online ordering or delivery, anything like that?
Yeah. So basically, we sat down with them and we said, this is what's happening. And we're in your court on this and we want to keep you guys going, but we're going to need a lot from you in response because of that. On top of this, we have 2 children that were no longer in school. And so we're at home with them and we're trying to quarantine ourselves for the first 14 days after coming back from Europe and traveling in an airport. So we basically were completely homebound at that point and didn't want to be out or exposing anyone. So we said, we really need you guys right now to do as much as you can to make this happen for everybody. And we want you guys to go out there and look up different resources and kind of gave everybody a role. So Fred Morrison, who's our technical buyer here at the shop, I said, Fred, why don't you look into online store options? Why don't you look into how we can sell our product online? Why don't you do gear videos on social media? Figure out what are other people doing and how can we get involved with that aspect of the business, the technical side of things. We also have a boutique up front in the shop where we sell women's clothing, lifestyle stuff, and souvenir items. And so our buyer for that, Kat Tobin, I said, what I need from you is to help us come up with a system on how we can capitalize on some sales up here during this time. And so what we came up for that was what we call touch-free personal shopping, where Kat kind of essentially did, she looked at what Stitch Fix does and tried to model a similar type format for our store where we could have people fill out what they're looking for, what their interests are, what their needs are. And then we packed up a box of clothes, sent it to them, and then with a return shipping label, they sent it back. We handled everything really carefully with gloves. We quarantined the items in the back of the store and then steamed everything with our steamer to disinfect it. And we're able to actually make quite a bit of sales doing that. So that was a quick kind of pivot on our part to be able to make some sales there. The other thing we did is I called Scott Peterson with the Chaffee County Visitors Bureau a couple days after we were shut down and said, hey, because what I found through this is use all of your resources that you have, use your connections, use your contacts, use other business owners, and don't be afraid to ask, what are you doing and how are you doing it and what's the best method? I was really communicative with Dave Blazer, who owns the Trailhead here in Buena Vista, going back and forth because he owns a very similar retail store that we do. So asking him, what are you guys doing? How is it working? What are the options? What are you thinking right now? And that was really helpful just to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. I think that there are a lot of people in the business community that are very willing to help and offer ideas and counseling if it may be what you need to help out, to come up with different ideas. Because I think, especially in smaller communities that we live in, people do realize that we're all in this together and that we don't want empty stores on Main Street. We don't want jobs lost long-term. We want to stay healthy and strong as an economy, and to rely on each other is really important right now. Through Scott Peterson, have a discussion on, what can we do? And I initially had proposed to him that we, auction off a ducky package or some sort of item. And he linked me in with, he's working with Chaffee County Community Foundation, and they have ideas, and we kind of spitballed a few things around and what it might look like. And kind of a few days later, Scott came up with the Chaffee County auction. Now this is Love Auction. And so we were able to sell gift cards on there, and able to also formats on our websites where we can sell our gift cards as well, and kind of put messaging up and, stay present and communicative with the public through social media, through our website, through Google, updating our listings and everything like that. So
cool. That's very creative and very innovative and great advice. I mean, that's part of why we're doing the pivot panels here, is because we want to encourage businesses to talk to each other and kind of get ideas in that way. Like, what are you doing, and what's been successful, and what challenges have you had? So I appreciate you reiterating that that's been helpful for you also. So Megan, you had said earlier that one of your priorities was to keep your employees on board and employed. And I imagine that some of the pivot programs you put into place might not have been enough to fully replace all the hours. What kind of creative tasks or, how have you kept them busy so that you could take advantage of the PPP loans that I assume you received already?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, a lot of this was, we went into it with the knowledge that nobody's going to be fulfilling their 40 hours a week with what we have available to them. But we really put the onus on our employees to be creative and to look into things on their own, and try to come to the table with different resources that they could think of, whether it's, through research or keeping track of what other people in the industry are doing. A lot of it was, fed from my husband or I saying, hey, let's try this out. Hey, can you look into this? But it's really great to have the additional help, especially with, essentially, like I said, we have 2 kids at home. My husband was pretty much watching the children at the time, being a really great father. And I was doing all the research that I needed to do on all the websites for how to apply for loans. What are they, what are the options? What's the CARES Act? What does that mean? When are things moving forward? And talking to people and reaching out, like I said, to our SBA advisors to figure everything out, and reaching out to other business owners to see what's going on. With dealing with all of that on our own, that was pretty time consuming. And then there's the business aspect of it, and the, putting these ideas into motion, whether it's, gear clinics that we did on Facebook, and going over, new inventory that's coming in, and new technical items that we have, whether it's a new dry suit for that year or a different boat. And Fred did a really great job and just kind of took the lead on that and made that happen. And the, like I said, the personal shopping that we created, Kat did the research for that. She did the paperwork, she posted on the website, she made it all happen. So there definitely are things that people were doing. And then from this, like I said, it actually did kind of work a little bit, where we drummed up some sales. And so Kat stayed perfectly busy packing boxes and unpacking boxes and putting things away and all of that. And then, we just kind of let everybody kind of do their thing. And that was part of it, is, we have really great employees, and we have a really good team here, and everybody does a good job. So that's why we were really, considering it super important to keep everybody on. But we kind of left the thought of, the amount of time that everybody's putting in as a side note, and just said, we're going to make this happen. So the last thing we wanted is to, it's really stressful. All of this is very stressful. And so the last thing we wanted is to pass that stress on to other people and have them feel that they're in limbo and don't have certainty. I think that creates a panic scenario rather than the opportunity for people to be creative and think critically about what's happening.
So we're recording this on May 6th, and I imagine that you either are already open partially, or you're going to be very soon.
Yes.
Have you started to think about what you're going to change in the store as a result of COVID and your customers' need to feel safe? And so walk me through some of that. What are some of the changes that you're making to address that situation?
Yeah, so, we pretty much, we kind of took the steps before even the guidelines were released by the Department of Health on what we wanted to do and how we could operate our business, because in that interim period between when we were closed and when we were able to open it up again, which was last Friday, there's time to think about it. And you say, how can we operate as a business? How can we move forward from this in a safe, responsible way and still be open to the public? And so we kind of took the lead from a lot of the grocery stores, and the businesses, the essential businesses that were open, and looked and what are they doing? How are they operating their business and what are they doing? And how can we implement those things in our store? So I'm also on a newsletter for the surf industry. So we have like a surf shop in the front, which is basically like kind of surf brands that we sell through the boutique. And one of the newsletters that they sent out was a guidelines or things that other businesses, retail stores that are doing in places that they're open. So there was one store in Virginia Beach that because surfing was considered essential recreation, they were allowed to stay open. And so it was really interesting to look at that and see, they basically operate a very similar store to we do. It's a retail store that sells technical items related to the sports industry. And so what were they doing and how are they operating? And so kind of looking at that and just emulating what they're doing. It's not necessarily recreating the wheel. It was, piecing things together from what the grocery stores are doing, what you see as effective, and, looking at what other people are doing. And then a big part of it too is, how do you make your customers feel comfortable? So you really want to create an atmosphere where people are comfortable to come into the store, are able to enjoy themselves. Part of our atmosphere here is that it's very casual, it's fun, it's, very much embodies the river culture. And so we want that to hold true to our customer experience. And so how do you do that in a way that's responsible and not too rigid? And so, we followed the guidelines through the Chaffee County Public Health, where we have sanitizing stations and signage everywhere in the store. Masks are required for everybody to come in. And that's both for our employees' safety and the safety of other customers in the store and comfort. It's an easy thing to just, put a mask on. It makes everybody feel a lot better about what's happening, and making sure that people have sanitized their hands upon entering the store, limited what they're touching, all of that. So we've done a lot of that. And then as well, we have protocol because we are a gear shop, and a lot of the gear people have to try on and touch and look at. And we also run rentals. So we rent out mostly, whitewater kayaks, rafts, things like that, but also the gear that goes with that. So helmets, PFDs, all of that kind of stuff. So we had to come up with protocol on how to effectively and safely sanitize those items when they're brought back in, and or quarantine them. So we have different quarantine zones in the shop where we can set things until we have a chance to get to them and disinfect them properly and be able to put them out. Fortunately, our next door neighbors are the distillery, so they have an endless supply of alcohol to clean that they've supplied with us, similar to what the Peachy Woods distillery is doing. So it's alcohol that we can clean things with and disinfect. We also have a steamer that we can steam items with, which we already had prior to this, which is really ideal, but that can heat things up over 200 degrees and get them nice and sanitary. So it's just a matter of changing your habits, changing your behavior, and then really decreasing our capacity. So our maximum capacity in the shop is 110 people. We are only allowing 10 people at a time in the store. And that's, like I said, so that we can be responsible and safe and comfortable. And it's really, I think, people are moving forward with this, getting accustomed to the idea of waiting outside. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing now to stay open.
Awesome. Those are all really great ideas that I think other retail businesses can put into place, because there's so many different lists and guidelines. I think it's great to hear directly from a business owner as to what you're putting into place and what you're implementing. So yeah, thank you for that. So one last question, Megan, tell me what kind of challenges you faced during your pivoting experience, and what would be your advice for other business owners?
I would say that the challenges that we have faced and the challenges that we currently are facing are the same. This situation is constantly unfolding, and we don't know where we're going to be 2 weeks from now. We don't know where we're going to be a month from now. So I think staying on your toes is really important, staying really current on what's happening, being very aware of the news, the government announcements. I've been very closely following Jared Polis, our Colorado governor, all of his announcements that he makes, as well as, like I said, signing up to any kind of newsletter or, website or information that you can, to just get a daily post in your inbox to be able to see what's happening and follow up on it. I also have reached, we have some resources within our industry that we've really relied heavily on right now. So they're silly kind of websites, but a lot of our vendors are sending out emails, things you can do, how you can operate, and just staying extra proactive and doing everything you can, not just, like I said earlier, not just pigeonholing yourself into one option of, I've done this one thing and I'm hoping it'll work, right? Diversify what you're doing, do everything, whether it's reaching out to your landlord, whether it's reaching out to your banks for loans, whether it's reaching out to your credit card companies, asking for extended dating, even if you have to be on the phone for 3 hours, make it happen. Have discussions with your employees. I think being open and honest and transparent about the situation and what we're all in right now and what you need from them is really important. I also think that there's a lot of loan options out there that, and I'm still in the thick of it right now. I don't think we have anything for sure guaranteed, but, staying up to date on what are those loan options. And there are the government loan options that have come out because of the COVID, crisis, but there also are other things, whether it's your bank, whether it's the SBA, other loan options that they provide, whether it's, I looked into a Kiva loan the other day, everything,
Right.
do some Google, just Google it, figure it all out, talk to some people, and do everything you can, because, we all have to fight hard right now to stay above water. That's what we're here for. And then use your resources, use other business owners, talk to people, talk to your neighbors, figure out what other people are doing. And I would say that probably most people right now are willing to help. So do what you can to get help in any way possible. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that advice. Megan Kingman of CKS Colorado Kayak Supply in Buena Vista, Colorado. Thank you so much for your time today. And we wish you best of luck in the next few months and maybe years.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks. Take care, Megan.